we're learning the frustration doesn't come from the statements or the actions. The frustrations usually come from feeling unsafe or triggering something that we may not have fully dealt with in our own past.
This is the Called to Flourish podcast, where leaders and cultures grow.
Welcome back to the Called to Flourish podcast. My name is Robert Wachter. I'm the Global Marketing Director here with Best Christian Workplaces. And today we have a very special guest joining the program, Dr. James Borishade. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. James.
Yes, I'm excited to be here. I'm excited. I've been looking forward to this all week.
Amen. So have we. We're so looking forward to this conversation. For our audience, Dr. James is the Executive Director and CEO of Circle Urban Ministries, which is a ministry based in Chicago. It's a Christian nonprofit, and they work on transforming lives and communities through education, discipleship, leadership development, outreach, and really just addressing those needs from, I think, a spiritual and very practical standpoint. So Doctor is doing great work there in Chicago. He's also the author of Connecting Across Differences. And this is a book published by InterVarsity Press that is being released. Dr. James, I think March 3rd is the actual official release of the new book?
Yes, March 3rd, coming up really soon. Coming up real soon.
Yes, coming up soon. And I learned in our show prep here that it's also your 10-year anniversary on the beginning of March with Circle Urban Ministries. So congratulations on all of that incredible, exciting news and your tenure there and all of that. Amen.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. To God be the glory. It's been a labor of love, and the time has flown by. The time has just flown by. 10 years have gone like that. Man.
Yes.
Yes.
Time does fly, doesn't it? Well, so Dr. James, what really drew us to have him on the podcast is the work he's doing and really his focus on, how do you create harmony with a diverse group of people? How do you bring together diversity in a workplace culture and build trust with the way people think, feel, and work differently? So we know that workplace cultures are different. There's diversities in personalities and perspectives and working styles and experiences. And we know that those diversities bring healthier, more productive and effective teams. But there is a possibility, I should say, or a possible tension that can happen when diverse backgrounds, experiences, working styles, working geniuses, disc profiles, whatever it is, those diversities bring greater engagement, but can also be a source of tension in the workplace. And so that's what we want to talk about, is how do we navigate those tensions and ensure that our workplace and our teams are healthy and engaged and productive, and those diversities bring about a greater outcome versus maybe getting stuck on some of those issues that diversity can bring, which is just a disconnect of how we think and perceive things that are going on in our work. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Dr. James, I want to start with this doctrine of Imago Dei, which I believe is the Latin term for essentially the doctrine of, being created in the image of God, or seeing people through the lens of the image of God.
Uh-huh.
So I'd love for your thoughts on that, kind of what shifted in your leadership when you started seeing people through that lens and recognizing, hey, this is the framing that I should lead by, is seen through that doctrine.
It actually started with a relationship that had just ended in my life, and it caused immense pain for me because it had me questioning who I was, what I was about. Am I a good father? Am I a good person? Am I a good human being? Why am I so different? And what I had to do was go into the scripture and really start reading about God, learning about who he is. And one of the first places that caught my attention was, let us make man in the image and likeness of Christ. And so I was like, wow, that has to be me. If I'm created in the image and likeness, what if the things that make me unique were by design? And so I started to hone in on what are the things that make me unique? Because, growing up where I grew up on the south side of Chicago in the Jeffrey Manor. And I remember teachers always saying, you are so extra. You are so extra. But when I finished studying about the Imago Dei, as I started to learn that if there is no extra in your ordinary, how can you be extraordinary? And so I started to lean into the extra that is me and really found that that's my uniqueness. And I realized I was onto something when my younger brother came to me one day, and we're not much of a hugging family, came to me and gave me a big hug and said, I have my brother. And that really struck a chord with me. So started to study it and realize, okay, if I'm created in the image and likeness of God, I wonder if I've been missing that image and that likeness of God in other people. And so I started to look at it like this is the image and likeness of God is that spark, that thing that makes you uniquely you. And so what that did for us at Circle Urban Ministries, it really changed the way we interacted with everyone. Instead of coming to work and really trying to hide the things that others might see as extra in you, we now actually to lean into that a little bit. And let's find out what's the extra in you, what makes you uniquely you. And so if you look at our leadership team, no two minds are alike on the leadership team. But, we have a philosophy. If we don't agree, we don't move. And so that forces us to come back to the table with conversations, that forces us to listen to the unique perspectives of everyone there. And for us, those unique perspectives, we listen to as, could this be the voice of God? In churches where the only voice, the voice of God only comes from the pastor. Well, that's not how it goes at Circle Urban Ministries. From our maintenance team to the CEO, we don't lead like this. We lead like this. The voice of God can come from any one of these individuals. And so
I like that. Yeah. And when he was saying lead like this, we're not talking about a hierarchy. We're talking about more like a circle or a flat type of leadership. Yes.
Absolutely.
Can you share a little bit on some, what do some of those differences look like when you're talking about a diverse leadership team? You've got these ideas. Tell me a little bit what do those diversities look like in your environment?
So for us, I'll start with ethnicities and race first, and gender. We've got myself as a Black man. We have an African American woman. We have another African American male. We have a white woman. As well, 2 white women on our leadership team. And so we need to make sure that people represented around the table all have a unique voice. And so what I tell you, I don't need you to think like me because I confidently think like me. I need you to think like you because I don't, and I need to hear that perspective. That we really lean into that at Circle Urban Ministries. I mean, really lean into that. And it can be frustrating at times, but we'll probably get into this later, but we're learning the frustration doesn't come from the statements or the actions. The frustrations usually come from feeling unsafe or triggering something that we may not have fully dealt with in our own past. I love the term you use when you said building connections, because it's the connection that typically is broken, and that stems from something that a lot of the time we in leadership don't talk about.
Mm-hmm. What would how would you describe it when you've seen an attempt to create, I guess, unity through a diverse workforce or work team? where have you seen where this has been done in an unproductive way? In other words, we see that there's diversity. We're trying to, but this way isn't working. This approach doesn't seem to be producing the unified, engaged, healthy team that we're looking for. Any insights there for us?
I do. I won't name the companies because I've done some coaching and consulting for some companies. I won't name them, but I've spoken at companies where they have mandated diversity, mandated inclusion, and you can't mandate inclusion. And what you can do is you can recruit, you can train, and you can build cultures where you have good people. And with good people, inclusivity comes with that because you are breeding and you are developing cultures where there are people with good hearts. I've seen it where it's struggled when you have things like we're going to do 5 surveys of diversity, and then we're going to have a diversity committee. We're going to come and talk about this at the diversity level. Now, I'm not saying that the committees are wrong. What I am saying is sometimes the heart behind doing those things is what really needs to be adjusted as opposed to just the action. The action itself works when the heart behind the action makes sense. And so I've seen companies where the turnover, I was brought into a company where the turnover was over 40% annually. And the leadership is the only thing that didn't change, but everybody under the leadership just kept turning over, and they kept recruiting people specifically to fill quotas as opposed to people who they really want. And you could tell that who they really wanted in the organization and who they really did not want in the organization. Mm-hmm. Everyone felt that. And so what we talked about is, okay, listen, let's remove the quota, period. Let's look at getting really good people. And when they started to take that mindset shift, they found that their quotas were met, but they were met with really good people as opposed to bringing someone on just to say, well, I brought this person on because they fit this mold. I brought this person on because they don't fit that mold. Let's get really good people. They're really good people in all walks of life. Every last one of them fits or has some spark that God put inside it. Find that spark and let's focus there. And so we say, do they get it? Do they want it? Do they have the capacity to do it? And so we found people who maybe wanted it but didn't get it, or maybe got it but didn't have the capacity or didn't want it. And so when you marry those 3 things together, you start to find people, okay, wow, we've got a great team. It does my heart good when I hear people say, we've got a great team. We've got a really good team. Our team, none of us think the same, but we always march to the beat of the same drum, which is hard. Which is hard. I can still share some battle scars.
Yeah. I think you offer a lot of wisdom there, and I want to kind of focus in on this idea of leaders who are watching, listening to the program right now, and they're saying, okay, we didn't try to meet a quota. We tried to hire the best people, and we've ended up with this very diverse workplace culture here, but we're struggling with how do we bring about that unity? And I think fundamentally it's fair to say that you can have differences in thought, differences of opinion, but still remain focused and unified in intent. In other words, we are still aiming for the same thing. We want that same kingdom outcome. And we're unified in that, but there are differences of perspective and approach along the way. But one of the things that I really like that you've stated and that I've seen in some of your work is that the real threat or danger is not diversity. In fact, that's actually a strength. We know that our data indicates that diverse teams, and by diverse, it's not necessarily just like an ethnic background or gender. We're diverse in so many other ways than that. We're diverse in just the way God wired us. We're diverse in our experiences that we've had in our lives and different working styles, working geniuses, different approaches, just the whole thing. What it does is it creates a diverse group of people. And so the danger is not in diversity. That's a strength when it's managed properly. So what actually is the threat then? And I like what you mentioned, that disconnection or a relational disharmony is actually the real threat. Can you
Yes.
speak on that a little bit?
So the relational harmony is the real threat, and the root of that threat is a lack of safety. So
Mm,
the more diverse a team is, the more information the leadership has to know about the differences that you have on your team. So, for example, if I have a person who is an audible learner, and I know that they're an audible learner, and I come to the meeting and I don't have anything that fits that communication style, is the person out of bounds, or am I the one who, now having known that I have recruited this diverse style of learning on my team, but I have not provided a safe place for this person to learn what we're doing. And so we can all be marching with the same intent, but we have different language. And so part of what the real threat is relationally is, what language do we have as an organization? What is our common language? And how do we know when a person is feeling unsafe? Because
mm,
unsafe doesn't come loud. Unsafe comes with withdrawal. It comes really, really silent. It's in that meeting where someone might say, "We're going to go this way," and you just hear, "Huh, huh." That "huh" says a lot, and we either have to lean in or lean back. And so I'm actually encouraging leaders to become curious about the "huh," to become curious about each person on your team's uniqueness, and how do we not only speak to that uniqueness, but how do we create space for that uniqueness, whether it's the diversity of thought. And when I talk diversity, I'm 99.9% talking about diversity of thought and diversity in calling.
mhm,
And so how do we create space for it? How do we make
yeah,
it safe for that in a way as a leader? How do we do that? Because I'm telling you, a lot of especially in this new generation, they're not coming to work as robots. They're coming to work with their full feelings and their full self on their sleeve. And a lot of the data shows many of them are quietly quitting, where they stay at the work, but they're doing less and less of the work. And that
mm,
happens when they feel unsafe or
mm,
unheard.
yes.
Leading well starts with listening well. At Best Christian Workplaces, our employee engagement survey helps you collect honest, anonymous feedback from your staff so you can lead with clarity. When you understand what drives team engagement, you retain top talent, increase productivity, reduce turnover, and uncover cost savings. We equip Christian leaders with research-driven insight to strengthen culture and lead with purpose. Because when your people flourish, your mission impact multiplies. Visit workplaces.org to learn more today.
Yes. So you touched on it a little bit, when you hear the "huh," right? That speaks volumes. That's a person who may have a different perspective. What are some practical, intentional leadership practices that can help leaders move towards bridging those healthy, diverse perspectives that leads to, a place where you do feel seen and heard and safe, and these elements that we know are needed for that unity to come about, and that engagement, that quiet quitting begins to reverse, and you get engaged, higher levels of engaged employees when they feel seen, heard, and safe. I think that's what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love a little bit more. What kind of practical, intentional leadership things can the listeners say, "Hey, I can start that tomorrow. I can start doing some of these things to ensure that I'm, bridging these relational bonds with each other, so that our diversity can flourish together."
I think it starts with you as a leader feeling safe in your own skin. Number one. Number two, from a practical standpoint, I think it's important to ask for feedback from everyone on your leadership team specifically. And so you have to model how you want feedback given. For example, if you're in a meeting and you have, let's say, 4 leaders around the table, and there is a decision that needs to be made, I need to hear from all 4 leaders around the table. And if you have something that we have not thought of, we that doesn't necessarily mean we'll pause the goal, but it may have us pause or rethink the tactics or the strategy to accomplishing the goal. And so I need to hear from everyone around the table. Now, when you model that, you should also expect that your leaders model that with their teams as well. Because me hearing from the leaders around the table, what it tells me is you as a leader, you've heard from your team and you're coming here speaking on behalf of your team or your department. And oftentimes that does not happen. It goes top down instead of across the board. And so when you get in these leadership meetings, oftentimes I see leaders make decisions and then they go ship it to the frontline people, and they have not heard from the frontline people that this will not work. And here's why it will not work. But had you reached out through your leadership team to everyone on the front lines, or as a leader, come and serve on the front lines also, and then you can go back and say, here's what we heard our people saying. Here's how that impacts this decision. And Circle Urban Ministries, you can't even take a leadership position until you've served in every department. You don't have a well-rounded enough vantage point to come to the table. So I've been the CEO for 10 years. I have mopped the floor. I've been the janitor. I have worked in the schools, after school program where I'm leading classrooms. I've had to cook at Circle Urban Ministries. I've worked you should see how surprised parents are when they come in and I'm working the front desk. But what that shows to your team is there's no big I's and little U. If we are truly all in this together, we are truly all in this thing together. And that breeds safety. That breeds, okay, if he can do this or if she can do this, I can do this too. It also breeds, they want to hear what I have to say. Lastly, in this point, if you hear what people have to say, take it into consideration. I can't say how many people listen to what people have to say and then move on and do something completely different. I remember an organization that I was working with. I won't say their name. They had surveyed. They did an all leadership institute, right? For everybody in the staff, and it was like 60 people. They asked them. They did a post survey, and the staff told them what they liked and what they did not. And so the next year they brought me in to consult, and I kid you not, it looked like they took everything from the what we do not like list, and that's what they were going to do for the next leadership. And so one person on that team said, "Oh, Coach James is about to get us." And so when I walked through the door, she said, "James, what do you have to say about this presentation?" And she asked the person, "Do the presentation over again." And I heard the presentation and said, "Let me look at my survey. Help me understand how this is not exactly what they said they didn't want." And so what we learned that day is that leader did what he was used to versus what the team was asking for. So sometimes as a leader, we got to get out of the way. What do we say? There's more than one way to skin a cat.
Yeah. And it comes down to listening. I mean, listening is more than, hey, tell me what you think. Listening is demonstrating an understanding of what you've heard, taking it into serious consideration, right? And then, applying. I think that we're talking about trust and maybe even repair. How do you repair broken trust in a leadership environment? I think one of the things that doesn't help build trust is to say, we want to hear from you, and then completely ignore everything that you say. Right. That's just going to erode at the process of trust. So we always tell people at Best Christian Workplaces, I say this all the time, we want you to take the survey. We want you to get the tools and have a health profile and really understand the metrics and data around your workplace health, because that data is your best friend. But if you don't intend to champion that feedback and really listen and take it seriously, then we would advise you not to survey at all, because you're really going to erode trust even more, because you've broken a fundamental promise. We care about you. We want to hear from you. And then we're not demonstrating any initiative to actually respond to the wisdom and insight that you've given us. So I love what you're saying. Can you talk on this idea of repair? Because, there's no perfect leader. Probably every leader who's listening is thinking, I probably messed that up. And so it's really not about perfection, is it? It's a leader. There's no perfect leader except for Christ himself. Right. So talk about this word of repair, and lean into that a little bit, so that leaders are those, hey, maybe I haven't hit the mark here. How do I repair some of the trust that I've broken?
So I'll share an example. I had broken trust at Circle Urban Ministry early on, and I didn't know it. So I used to walk in with 3-piece suits on. I'm talking vest, everything. And what it showed them was I was unapproachable. That was the first thing. And then I would come in and I would see, because we have an after school program, I would see, okay, someone didn't fully sweep yet. And I would say, hey, there's food downstairs in the kitchen. Somebody needs to sweep that. And I'm going to my office. And I thought, that's what leadership really looked like. And then we had our retreat where we brought just the leaders in. And I had we paid for somebody to come and facilitate that. And that's where it came. Do you get it? Do you want it? Do you have the capacity to do it? What are our core values? And does each one of the leaders around this room champion or embody those core values? And out of everyone on the team, I scored the lowest. And that, it crushed me. And so that's when I realized, okay, something's wrong. And at this point, as a leader, you have a choice. You can either defend yourself or you can humble yourself. Both two great choices, but only one of them is going to start the process of repair. And so in that instance, I decided, and it was not easy, to humble myself and listen to what the team would say. And they had receipts. Like, they gave me examples of times. I remember when you came in the kitchen and you said this, and part of our core values is service. And so it wasn't service for you to come and say, hey, the floor's dirty. You could have just picked up what you saw on the floor. I thought, I could have done that. And so so they gave me their receipts, and I apologized to them. And I think acknowledging the hurt or the trust that we may have broken, whether it's intentional or not, there's no need to defend, because you're not being attacked. You attack when you defend when you're being attacked. This is for the betterment of the organization, but it's also to the glory of God and for the advancement of the kingdom. And so you humble yourself, you listen, you acknowledge, and then you ask, how would this have looked differently if I had done this in a way that embodied our core values? And they'll share.
Right.
As long as they know sharing is not punitive, your team will share. And when they share, if you can find what's agreeable, acknowledge that and thank them for that, you will instantly begin to repair trust. But then you've got to take this to your quiet place and pray about it. Hey, Lord, I don't know or feel like, well, let me say it a different way. My team has shared with me that I am not representing you in a way that illuminates or grows trust and builds safety. Help me to walk with you, be guided by you, order my steps day in and day out, and see what shifts. And then the last thing is, check in with your team periodically. I promised you that I would do A, B, and C. How am I doing with that? And so that would mean, though, you've got to have trusted leaders around you who also feel like that it is okay to hold you accountable for things, and they will not be punished, or there will be no retribution for doing so. That is
Yeah.
not easy work, but that is kingdom.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I can tell you, your humility shines through, your wisdom shines through, Dr. James, and I'm inspired by your story. I'm inspired by the humility, and it sounds to me humility is the avenue towards repair. It's and modeling that is such a powerful thing, especially as a key leader in an organization. So I want to thank you for your humility and sharing your stories. And I think there are leaders out there are listening and feeling inspired and more equipped today because of this. I know that I am. And when you're a leader, that is the pathway. Humility is the pathway, because leadership brings a weight to it. And that weight has to be dealt with through humility. And with that, it is to the glory of God, and it's kingdom building, and it's part of that process. And so, Dr. James, can you share with the audience how people can learn more about you? I know your book is coming out on March 3rd, 2026. How can we connect with you, learn more about you?
You can connect with me on my website at borishade.com. That is BORISHADE.com, or through our work at Circle Urban Ministries, which is circleurban.org. I'm also on Instagram a little bit at Dr. James Borishade. That's my handle, at Dr. James Borishade. And I'm actually looking forward to connecting across differences with everybody. I want to thank you, Robert, for having me on. This has been really eye opening. It's been humbling for me to hear what other leaders are going through, and also to share a little bit about what we've experienced as Circle Urban Ministries and what I've experienced in my career. So thank you so much for having me on. I don't take this or any opportunity like this lightly. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You are very welcome, and the feeling is definitely mutual. And as you were talking, I can tell you, being immersed in the Best Christian Workplaces culture and our model and our flourish approach, that so many of the things you were saying resonate as so strong and so true. And so I think we found a friend here with you, Dr. James. I'm grateful that you took time to be on the program, and we wish you, Circle Urban Ministries, and your book all the success in the world, that you continue to make a great kingdom impact in your communities. And just want to thank the Lord for you, your team, the work you're doing, and just say God bless you to you. So with that, I would just want to remind everyone to go ahead and just share this episode with a friend, with a colleague, with anyone who you think would benefit from the wisdom that Dr. James has shared with us today. Be sure to go check out his website, or go check out Circle Urban Ministries, and to look for his book called Connecting Across Differences. I know this book will bless you and enrich you and your leadership and your team. But until next time, God bless you. We'll see you next time on Called to Flourish.